Make a Path presents Let's Talk.
Alright guys, I thought this was a very, very good episode. Let's talk The Walking Dead, episode 14, Spend. Now, what better place to start this review than Mother Dick? We start off with Abraham, and this is directly taken from the comic book with Rosita in bed. He is unsure of himself, he's anxious, he doesn't want to go outside of the walls, and I'm only pulling that from in the comic book. He did say, pull it together, Abraham, you can do this, you've been out there before. So I'm guessing that is what they were translating through that, except for they didn't have Abraham talk to himself. Once outside of the walls, we still saw how he was kind of uneasy. Maybe he's just afraid of the millions of possibilities that can go wrong. Maybe he's just afraid of who he is out in that world, and he kind of liked being the polo guy, you know, kicking back some beers, telling Michonne some jokes, you know. Well, he didn't think they were jokes, but they ended up being, you know. He had a good time, you know, and this is a very different place being on the outside of those walls. So one of the crew members from the construction crew goes to take a shit, and then he brings the shit right back with him. Mother Dick. Abraham and the rest of the crew go off and they go fighting. One of the bullets, it looks like it hits the hydraulic line on the bulldozer. A new character falls down and gets hurt. Tobin wants to leave her, very much like in the comic book. Except when they call out the girl's name, it's Francine, not Holly like the comic book. Holly was mentioned earlier with Noah and Tara when they were going on the run. Apparently Noah was talking with Holly. Now, interestingly enough, they mention Holly, but now it's switched around on us. And Abraham goes to save Francine just like he did in the comic book for Holly. Now, a lot of fans are jumping to the conclusion that Abraham will carry on a relationship with this Francine character much like he did with Holly in the comic book. I do not believe that right away. I want to believe they will bring in Holly because they mentioned her. And why even mention her if you're not going to bring her in? I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that because of the storytelling aspects and how much they're packing in here, they are saving that story for season 6. That's why they mentioned Holly, and they gave us a replacement for this scene, and I am absolutely fine with that. For anyone who wants Holly on the show, as much as I do, from the comic book, I'm okay with her losing that storyline as long as we get a fleshed out Holly in season 6. Totally fine with that. Moving on from there, we got some really awesome automatic action point blank to the face of some walkers under a bulldozer. Oh yeah, I like that. You know, and I do like how the crew member wants to back up Abraham's heroics. He doesn't want him to die for nothing. He says, I can't believe he's still alive. What are you doing? Tobin says. And he says, I'm going to make sure he stays that way or stays alive or whatever. Awesome dialogue for a secondary character. Love that. And I do want to say right now, I absolutely love Michael Cutlitz as Abraham Ford. Michael Cutlitz is such a magnetic actor. When he is sad, you're choked up. When he laughs and he's happy, you're laughing, you're happy. He pulls you into a scene, he grips a hold of you until you're done with the scene, and I think that was an absolutely great casting choice, and I'm totally thrilled that we are free of the restricting mission to DC that was making Abraham a complete dick. I am glad that's done and over, and Abraham can now come out of his shell and we can start liking him more because I absolutely love his character. And I am friggin' thrilled that TV Abraham will live longer than his comic book counterpart. That is a great decision. Bravo for that one. Now about Abraham's takeover, he will not follow a leader that's incapable. He's not going to leave a man behind, or in this case a chick. Now Tobin was ready to do that. He was not willing to put the group's life in danger to save just one person. Abraham thought that was bullshit. He's not going to listen anymore. And for those who are confused, Tobin did leave the construction site. Maybe stayed there a couple minutes and left, half hour something. But he goes back to tell Deanna, you know what? I thought about this. Abraham needs to be the leader. He needs to take over. It is that clear, and I love how in the comic book it seemed like it was a dark conversation. It was in secret, just the two of them. And since Deanna said that this place is about transparency, I love how Reg is there, Maggie's there. It is a conversation with a group instead of just two people behind closed doors. Absolutely love that. However, handing over power and authority to another new member from, who just got there a few weeks before, it seems to make Deanna a little uneasy. She hands out new authority. Maggie backs it up. You could see the friction building a little bit. And it doesn't help at all when we get a knock on the door and we see Father Snitch in all his betraying glory. He comes in, and for a priest, he probably gives one of the worst insults you could possibly give, and that is Rick and his group, they're Satan. And Maggie, I was wrong about that. She wasn't listening in on any death news. She was spying in on Father Gabriel. And I think that it would be awesome if Maggie would later end up or be in a position to save Gabriel's life after his betrayal. Now, Maggie can forgive Father Gabriel, however, I can't. Father Gabriel is now on my shit list like a mother dick. Now we have Abraham's takeover, Father Gabriel's confession, and the final thing in this episode was Glenn screaming at that point. Those are three things that are going to build friction and probably help escalate a confrontation between between Deanna and Rick in the next episode. Now, Eugene in this episode, a lot of people probably fell in love with him. I really started liking him before they even left when he said, "I will install said shit." He was really trying to get out of that. They did take him. As soon as they got in the van, though, with that music and the clearly foreshadowing song, "You Will Die," I thought shit was definitely going bad. Now, from their conversation, though, we do know that there's no more dry runs. They've been going on runs. Time is passing. And we do know that even Noah says that a week ago he was going to take target practice on Aiden. Noah is a little bit more developed. You see, he's shooting better. He's more confident. So they've been going on runs. They've been putting in work. Aiden is getting along with Glenn more. Nicholas is still being the douchebag. Glenn wants to patrol the area, make sure all the exits are accounted for. And Nicholas is like, screw that. And Aiden is like, no, we should do what Glenn says. That's a good idea. Now, it also incorporates setup. We see, and The Walking Dead is great for setup. We see now the front of the building is full of walkers, and that's going to come into play later on. Now, even though the others have gone on runs, it looks like this is Eugene's cherry popper run. And again, I do want to insert with time moving as they stay in one spot. It opens up for the possibility that we will definitely see Morgan. The more time passes, the more of a possibility we have of seeing Morgan. Actually, we don't even know how much time has passed. I mean, I doubt that long, but wouldn't it be cool is if in the trailer where we see Daryl, the trailer for next episode, when he's looking at what looks like to be a campfire in the dark, it would be pretty badass if he ran into Morgan's campfire. Just saying, probably nowhere near gonna happen that way, but that would be pretty freaking neat. But back to the gore at hand. If you missed it, there was a soldier zombie, and that is what Aiden shot at. He hit the grenade on the soldier zombie, and that's what the explosion was. And I did find it interesting that even though Aiden wasn't tied to a tree, it was actually eerily similar to what Carol was describing to Sam back in a different episode. And in the end, it was the same. He, was eaten alive, stuck in one place, and nobody could help him. And he was outside of the walls. I thought that was either, a coincidence or just eerily similar. However, I don't believe it was just a coincidence because they could have had him die any way they wanted to. And instead, they had him die very, very similar to what Carol had just described to Sam. They can't save Aiden, and we do get a piece of information here. Nicholas leans forward and he says, "You left them. You left them. That's who we are. I'm sorry." And he bounces on Aiden. Now, what Aiden says to Glenn next reveals the last piece of the puzzle. He said those four did not panic. We did. We left them to die or we got them killed. But it makes it seem like he left Nicholas and Aiden left them to die. What if they didn't die? What if those four got picked up by, or maybe one or two, depending on how many lived, got picked up by the wolves, and that's how the wolves find Alexandria? I mean, that's a shot in the dark. It's probably not that clear cut, because then you would have to explain who these people are, or they can bring them as hostages. I mean, there's a million possibilities. Well, maybe not a million. That's, clearly an exaggeration. But I just thought about that for a moment. That would be pretty neat. And to finally end Aiden's life, we get a very, very awesome and gruesome zombie eating human flesh scene, and it was absolutely great. Especially when it reminds me of older zombie movies, because that's what they had. A guy sitting there screaming, just being ripped apart, That is, for zombie lovers, for zombie movie lovers, those scenes are always epic and great. And I love that. Now, let's talk about Eugene's development here. I want to knock it out in one shot. Eugene does try to step up at first when Tara is hurt. However, Walker knocks him down, and we do see Noah, more developed. He comes over, handles that Walker. Now, to Eugene's credit, he does try to step up. And then they do a very cool scene that makes you think Eugene is going to bolt for the exit, but in reality, he throws Tara over his shoulder. He makes his way out. He has to kneecap a zombie, which turns a walker into a crawler, and he gets the hell out of there. Then he comes back around with the van, honk if you're horny for humans type action, to distract the walkers away from them at the front that have Glenn and them trapped. Now, this is something I was thinking about before. I did mention it in the comments. In the comic book, Abraham dying is what made Eugene change. It was like a switch. He started manning up at that point. And I thought it was neat. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Abraham and Eugene were on a walk doing like a perimeter check. I just thought of that too. They were doing a perimeter check. Abraham dies. It's a switch. For his character development, that's what drives him into confronting a person almost immediately afterwards. Now look at what we got here in the TV show. Tara and Eugene are on a walk, on a perimeter check. Very, very similar, and that's why comic book fans thought Tara was going to take a crossbow to the head. She didn't. She ended up getting a head injury, which I think is friggin' awesome. And this changes Eugene's character. It develops his character to make a stance and become a hero in a way and save Tara's life. This is the change. You see how well they remixed that? At least I thought it was great, man. And when he finally gets out, like the comic book, immediately after he confronts somebody, he pulls up in the van. Nicholas is like, move over, we're out of here. Eugene's like, screw that. He processes it in his head, takes the keys out, gets out of the van, and he does something that Eugene doesn't do. He confronts somebody. Now, not only does Eugene confront Nicholas, but Eugene just risked his life to save Tara, and she might even die. Realistically, he doesn't know if she's going to make it. He just risked his life for that. He's not going to turn around now and become a coward again. So he gets out, goes to pull a gun out. Now, again, he's new at this, so shit doesn't go quite the way he expected it, but Glenn comes, rips Nicholas out, and he tries to beat the bitch out of him, but sadly, there's just too much bitch in him. It doesn't work. Me, personally, I think Glenn is a good guy. I would have either tied him up somewhere, left him to die. I would have killed him something. Nicholas would not be returning to Alexandria. Although, maybe that's a little hot-headed. He probably should return. So that way it doesn't look like, the new group is the only ones returning. That would be a little suspicious. So Glenn did do the right thing in the end, I guess. Yeah, I would have killed Nicholas for what happened at the rotating door of death. I mean, that was just horrific. And I loved it. Rest in peace, Noah. Now, I know I said Noah was a bitch, but he started coming around. And just as I thought about eating my words, they ended up eating him. Too soon? Everyone ate Chris. He is a zombie whore. Every walker had a piece of that. Alright, I'll stop. Now, Noah was weak, but he was honest about it. What I hate more is somebody like Nicholas who pretends like he is a tough ass and he's really a bitch deep down inside. He's a scared little child. That's a lot worse than what Noah is. And if you thought Noah was on my shit list, Nicholas officially just made my shit list, and I look forward to the day he dies, and I hope it's very brutal. Now, the setup for the revolving doors was freaking awesome. For those who missed it, Glenn and Noah had the guns. Nicholas had the ammo. The only way out was to keep the doors from shifting, because if either human group decided to get out of the exit, even after Eugene distracted the walkers from the front, whatever group got out, the other group would be eaten from the back end. Genius idea. This is awesome. The setup of this was absolutely awesome. It was very realistic the way they put the characters in there. I mean, at least I wasn't picking it apart. I knew. I was like, oh shit, that sucks, Nicholas runs out. We see Noah get taken. And Noah being ripped apart was so nostalgic for me of old zombie movies that I absolutely love that scene. It's gruesome. It's gory. It's just like, oh man. But it is so damn cool. I mean, so damn cool. The face ripping scene is just vicious, and Glenn had front row seats to that horror show. Steven did an amazing job with that scene, and I thought that was great. There was a little issues with editing there. They put two clips together that was clearly recorded at different times. Actor was doing different things, hand up here, hand down here type thing. So I do knock points off for editing on that one. You guys got to step it up. You know, sometimes people do that on purpose, but for a viewer, we like continuity, and it takes us out of the realism of it. Now, I also talked about this in my reaction video. There is a subtle, dark, slow burn to the domestic abuse, and it is flawless, and it helps show how it's hidden behind the walls of Alexandria and why no one picked up on it yet. And I do feel that Carol is being unfairly labeled. She is selfish, I'll give you that. But she's not a monster. She's not mean to this kid. She lost every child she tried to protect, and she can't do it anymore. She put one down for Pete's sake. Poor choice of words. She is keeping her distance, and she's pushing Sam away. And when Sam's reveal comes out, you see caring Carol, not crazy Carol. Carol said before, I don't care what happens in your house, but the moment the kid reveals the underlying horrors of abuse that could be going on in the house, Carol cares. She ends up at his house. People are confusing Carol's meanness for just being a mean, cold-hearted, she's losing her shit. Do you understand? She just cared for these children. One, she just had to shoot in the back of the head. She had to shoot a child in the back of the head. You know what I'm saying? That is not something that's easy. Now she's like, I would rather be mean to you than have to feel that pain and loss later, because you're probably gonna die. You know what I mean? And it would be crazy if in Pete's explosion or something, if the child ends up dying. Maybe that's why there's two children in the TV show version, and there was only one in the comic. One might be dying coming up, who knows. But the moment that Pete shut the door in Carol's face, I knew it could only mean one thing. Death sentence, you porch dick. Now, they're still building on that chemistry with Rick and, forgot her name, Jesse. And I think the chemistry is there. It's working, and it's working really well. It's not like in your face, but it's there. Rick was funny. I did chuckle a couple times at the thing he says. And I like the build up between who destroyed the owl. And I like the reveal of who actually destroyed the owl. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was saying the husband did it, you know, the whole time. Had to be the husband. And then we find out the kid does it. And although there is chemistry between Rick and Jesse, I still want her to embrace the No Way Out story arc. I want her to embrace that shit. And I don't care if she's hot. I mean, she is hot. She's very good looking. But I have this picture. I don't need to continually watch her on The Walking Dead. And if by slim chance the actress does get a hold of this video and watch it, I apologize. But embrace your destiny. Alright, that was probably creepy, but take that picture down now. Now, you guys know I was against the idea of Carol killing Pete. Absolutely hated everyone was trying to give Daryl the Pete storyline, or Carol the Pete storyline. But I love how they have Carol the one noticing it and bringing it to Rick. That was absolutely great. I talked about this in the reaction video. In the comic book, it seemed out of nowhere, and it was left for the reader to assume that Rick dealt with this on the police force. And it was a little confusing, and we just understood it as Rick went to a dark place and he was over dramatizing it. But then we were like, oh damn, Rick was kind of right. But here, Carol she's being honest. She's like, listen, there's some shit there. And for us, when she says you need to kill Pete, I know how it's going to go down. This is the zombie apocalypse. It's not just bad. This is horrible. That kid could die. Jesse could die. This is very bad. For us as an audience, we're ready to call Carol just losing it. She's losing it. Think about it. Shit is so bad in this household, at the Anderson household. The kid wants a gun for his mother to protect against his father. He's so messed up, he just destroys shit. You know what I mean? It is bad. So when Carol said, Rick, you need to kill him, come on, episode 16. Yes! Let me know your opinions about this episode down in the comments section below, because I'm done talking. It's your turn.
Subscribe now.